Hello and welcome to the Ryersonian podcast for the week of November 4th. I'm Erin Sally.
And I'm Alexandra Sanders. We're bringing you Ryerson's freshest news and the top stories of the week from across Canadian university campuses.
In this week's episode, Mayor Rob Ford says he has no reason to resign. This after video of him allegedly smoking crack cocaine was recovered by Toronto police. False fire alarms burn Ryerson's cash, and Hudson Bay releases the 2014 Winter Olympic clothing collection.
At a police conference on Thursday, Toronto Police Chief Bill Blair announced that the video of Rob Ford allegedly smoking cocaine has been recovered. The information was first leaked in May when the Toronto Star and U.S. website Gawker reported that they viewed the video in which Ford appears to be smoking from a crack pipe. The recovered evidence will be presented in court in relation to charges laid against Ford's friend and driver Alexander Lisi. Lisi was arrested and charged on October 1st with the possession and trafficking of marijuana and was later released on bail. Once the video evidence resurfaced on Thursday, however, he was arrested once again and charged with extortion. City councillors demanded the mayor resign if the allegations surrounding the video turn out to be true. However, Ford says he has no intention of resigning. Peter Lozinski is here with us today. He was at City Hall when the news of the video recovery was released and also witnessed Rob Ford's statement to the press shortly after. Peter, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
It must have been madness at City Hall on Thursday. Could you take us through what you witnessed?
Well, it was utter mayhem. There was TV cameras everywhere, more than I've ever seen at City Hall. It was so bad, in fact, that one of the reporters was standing on a chair, leaning over someone's shoulders with this microphone in the mayor's face, yelling, "Mayor Ford, Mayor Ford." It was really, really crazy.
I bet. What was the atmosphere like? Even just watching it live on TV, one could feel the tension of the reporters and even the City Hall staff. What was it like there for you?
Reporters were sort of swearing at each other, "Get out of the way, move back, I can't get a shot. If you all move back, we'll get a better shot." And they were all pushing and shoving. When I came back with my footage, it was all shaky and gross, I thought. But they said, no, it was great because it gives you a perspective of what's going on, because it was just so much pushing and shoving. It was very, very physical.
Do you have any other new developments for us on the story?
Well, since last week, the mayor has been doing the talk radio circuit. He was on News Talk 1010 to give a big announcement. He said he's apologizing for his past behavior. He didn't really specify what he was apologizing for. He later said on a different radio show he was apologizing for some of his drunken escapades to the city of Toronto. He has said he's going to drink less. He was also doing radio talk shows this morning. He still refuses to address any allegations that he smoked crack cocaine. All he says is that he is not an addict and that he doesn't do any drugs, he just drinks. He says he's trying to cut down on his alcohol consumption. He's also said he's going to get a driver. That's kind of news because he's previously refused to get a driver, and he's been caught talking on his cell phone while driving and even reading documents while driving on the Don Valley Parkway.
Well, thanks, Peter, for giving us the inside scoop and talking to us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
And of course, we will keep you updated as the story develops next week.
Meanwhile, on campus, the trade union says it has filed an unfair labor practices complaint against the student union. They are representing 2 full-time workers who have been locked out of their jobs at the Continuing Education Students Association of Ryerson. A complaint was filed with the Ontario Labour Relations Board on October 11th. The complaint was based on Caesar's unwillingness to come to the bargaining table. The 2 employees have been locked out of their jobs since the end of September. Supporters of the 2 marched to the Caesar office on Monday, demanding they put an end to the lockout. This story continues to develop.
An abnormal number of fire alarms were set off across campus last week. Even though most of them were drills, at least 10 of them were false alarms. While students might not have minded the alarms interrupted some midterms, it could cost Ryerson more than $10,000. Toronto Fire Services charge institutions $410 per vehicle for every hour in which they address false alarms. In the past, they have charged Ryerson over $1,200 for every alarm response. Some of the fees can be waived if Ryerson is making efforts to prevent future malicious alarms. One of Ryerson's main concerns, however, is that students might not take alarms seriously in the future if false alarms keep going off.
Even though a casino is off the table for Toronto, studies suggest Ryerson students could still be at risk of developing gambling addictions. Know the Score 2 is an interactive gambling addiction program. They explained that young adults are the highest at risk over any other age group. The group was on campus last week to talk to students about the potential issues they could encounter by gambling. A main one is gambling from the comfort of your home. Online gambling is very addictive and is becoming much easier for young people to get involved in. Ryerson says they are referring any students with a gambling addiction to go to CAMH, the Center for Addiction and Mental Health.
With less than 100 days left until the official start of the Sochi 2014 Winter Olympic Games in Russia, Hudson's Bay finally revealed the official athletes' Olympic and Paralympic collection on Wednesday. The entire collection will be provided to Canadian athletes in Sochi. It is important to note that they are not the competing uniforms, but the clothes that athletes can wear prior to competing or on the time off. Beavers, polar bears, and loons are rooted throughout the collection that's mostly red, white, black, and gray. The collection has something for everyone, including men's, women's, and infant styles. On a charitable note, every dollar of this year's Canadian Olympic mittens will be donated towards the athletes' training programs. Of course, the collection is not only for the athletes, but it's now available to purchase at thebay.com or any Hudson's Bay retailer.
The Sam the Record Man sign got some much-needed company last week for the first time in over a month. Councillor Josh Matlow's wish was granted to visit the Sam sign in storage under Ryerson's care. He told the Ryersonian Sahar Fatima that the dismembered sign looked like an enormous jigsaw puzzle. The university has refused to release the exact whereabouts of the sign. However, the Ryersonian was able to confirm with Matlow and the storage company that it is being stored in a warehouse in Vaughan, just north of the city. The controversy surrounding the Sam sign began when Ryerson decided that there simply was no room for the iconic Toronto sign in the Student Learning Centre. The school signed an agreement with the city back in 2008, saying that if the sign couldn't fit with the Student Learning Centre design, the backup would be to add it to the library building. However, Ryerson is still trying to determine the best place for the Sam sign. The decision will now go to the deputy city manager.
Dozens of students went to the town hall meeting last Monday to stick it to the university. The meeting was for students only and focused on Ryerson's academic plan for 2014 to 2019. Students were encouraged to express their opinions, and one that was thrown around was about the distribution of Ryerson's resources, to which some thought were unequal. Others made complaints about access to student services for those who commute or study part-time. A new draft of the school's academic plan will be released next year.
And now for your sports update. The Rams men's soccer team pulled one out of the sky last week. They were seconds away from elimination in the playoffs, but somehow managed to tie, then score the winning goal in the final minute of extra time. The team was victorious against the U of T Blues last Sunday at the Birchmount Stadium. The win pushed the Rams forward to the Final Four on Saturday afternoon. They beat the Windsor Lancers 1-0, advancing them to the national championships, something no other team in the program's history has been able to accomplish. They lost their first game of the year on Sunday, arguably at the worst time. This ended the hopes of Ryerson winning the first championship in school history. However, they will still have their shot at glory in the Canadian Inter-University Sport National Tournament, which begins this Thursday in New Brunswick. They will battle it out with 7 other teams from across Canada for the national title. We wish them the best of luck. Go Rams, go!
The Ryerson Rams suffered a pair of disappointing defeats against the York Lions on Saturday night at the Mattamy Athletic Centre. It was a tough week for Ryerson's men's and women's volleyball teams last week. The Ryerson Rams suffered a pair of disappointing defeats against the York Lions on Saturday night at the Mattamy Athletic Centre. The women's team lost 3 straight sets to the undefeated Lions. Following the women's game, the men took the court. After an initial 2-0 set lead, it looked like they were going to win, but the Lions were able to come back with a 15-13 win in the 5th set.
And that's it for this week's Ryersonian Wrap-Up. I'm Erin Sally.
And I'm Alexandra Sanders. Tune in next Monday for more top stories from Ryerson and other Canadian University campus updates. Have a great week!